We do have some questions coming through, and please, by all means, keep them coming in. We've got about 10 or 15 minutes on that, and this will still continue once it's closed. So if we don't get through all the questions, we can do it afterwards. Okay, let's start off with the first one that came through. Do you have any tips or examples or a framework that can be used to begin writing about your emotions?
Yes. So I like Brene Brown's approach is to start off with the phrase, the story I am telling myself is. And then you can feel free to get honest. And I just say write without necessarily thinking about it. Don't censor yourself in that. But I like setting up the framework, the story I'm telling myself is, because then it allows you to go back and be more objective later after you've written it and acknowledge that this is the story that I'm telling myself in order to function right now, and that's okay. But to write without thinking for about 15 minutes is 10 or 15 minutes. Don't censor yourself. Don't worry about what's coming out. Just let it come out. And then you can go back and you can ask yourself those questions of that I put up on the screen. What more do I need to know about the situation? What more do I need to know about the other people involved in the situation? And what more do I need to ask about myself and what's causing me to have these emotional responses? Are you responding that way because of something else that's happening in your life and it was triggered through that situation? So yeah, I like to say don't censor yourself at all. Set a timer for 10 or 15 minutes, and then either on the computer or by hand, whatever is most natural to you. And just don't worry about grammar, don't worry about punctuation, just worry about putting your feelings honestly on the page. And then you can go back and you can do the work of being more objective about it. But you need to get honest with yourself first about what you're feeling.
Okay, I hope that was a helpful, helpful response to the person who asked that question. Another one coming through. Do you have any advice for how to encourage minority voices to share their views without pressuring them?
Yes. Well, I think first, I think what's most important is to build that trust. Because if they haven't been encouraged to speak in the past, by just saying, now I attended a 45-minute webinar and now I want to hear from minority voices on my team. Do some work shifting things up to build trust on the team and to slowly encourage those voices from being heard. Maybe it's something like doing the challenge success and encouraging everybody to respond. Find a way then to, as a team, create a structure for how you're going to move forward. I oftentimes think that minority voices aren't heard on teams, even if they do feel that they're valued, because other people dominate the conversation. So figure out and talk about openly as a team how you're going to move forward with your meetings to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak. I mentioned that organization in New York decided to take turns with each team member would have an opportunity to lead the team meeting. So that way that encouraged everyone to feel like their voices were heard and acknowledged. But I think sometimes doing those autobiographical sharing, doing that emptying the cup exercise can be a nice introduction to starting to represent voices on the team and build trust. But then at the same time, to openly talk about it. This doesn't have to be a big secret. Openly talk about, I want to find a way to encourage more voices on the team to be heard. Let's talk about it as a team about how can we restructure our team meetings so that everybody can have equal time.
Great. How do you encourage diverse voices when there is a lack of confidence within the team to speak out, not a lack of opportunity to do so?
Yeah, I mean, I think the previous answer can speak to some of that. I'm going to be doing another webinar later on in the summer on collaboration, and that's where I talk about you can work together to create a team game plan. Again, it doesn't have to be a big secret. You can acknowledge we need to rethink how we engage in these meetings. I want to be able to hear from everybody equally on the team. Let's create a playbook for how we're going to structure our team meetings so that we can encourage everybody to speak equally in that. So, you know, it can be it can be its own team meeting, having a meeting about how you're going to have meetings. And I know that sounds excessive in a time of endless meetings, but those will make your meetings more efficient at the same time. If everybody can have input about how they could get the most out of the day. Go around the team and ask them what has worked for you in the past when you felt like your voice has been really valued and trusted on a team. What were some of the things that worked? I do an exercise often where I do that circle share, where I just get everybody to go around and speak in a circle, and they fill in the blank. When I feel trust on a team when. And they fill in the blank and have just everybody rapid fire go around a couple of times. And then the second sentence is, when trust exists on a team, I fill in the blank about a changing behavior that they might have if they feel like there's trust on a team. So creating generating ideas for how you guys might be able to restructure the way that you conduct meetings in order to celebrate voices that aren't heard. So I hate to say have another meeting, but have a meeting about how you're going to have meetings.
And following on from you saying that to have more meetings, how do you best engage staff who feel they don't have time for all these remote meetings and are quite closed?
Okay. So I find that when you give a structure, and I know I'm saying the word structure a lot because I am a big proponent of structure. The 3-act structure works because we know what to expect, because there's parameters within which we know that we're going to work. So when team members know that there's a plan for how we're going to get through the whole agenda, that it's going to happen more efficiently, and that my attention is only going to be required for the amount of time that it's really needed, then they're going to be engaging more in the meetings themselves. So acknowledge, hey, you know, what we've been doing isn't working. Let's really focus on figuring out how we're going to have a game plan to get through this meeting efficiently, and where everybody feels like their voice is being heard, and where we're moving forward and contributing positive ideas rather than just having a meeting to have a meeting. And that way, I think when you acknowledge that that you want to be more efficient about the use of their time, then it'll build trust, and it will also help to build their engagement in the team meeting. And you might find as many meetings.
I think we've got time for one more question. And obviously people, you can still put questions through, and I'll forward that on to Rebecca afterwards. How would you encourage others within a team who are prone to emotional responses to develop or use some of the personal resilience tools that you have put forward today?
I'm sorry, can you, it cut up a little bit in the middle of that question.
How would you encourage others within a team who are prone to emotional responses to develop or use some of the personal resilience tools that you have put forward today?
Again, it doesn't have to be a great secret. And in fact, in Brene Brown's book, she talks about how her whole team does the writing of these stories regularly. So she makes it a part of the process on her own team in order to help them regularly figure out how to process their emotions. So again, none of these strategies have to be a big secret. And I think starting to find little ways to help people to open up can have a really profound impact. So I find taking the time to acknowledge and empty the cup, doing the success challenge moment in a team meeting can be a really helpful way to get them to really think about, wow, what was my biggest success? What is my greatest challenge that I'm dealing with right now? And that's a way to start to break down those barriers and start to get them to focus their attention on how are my emotions impacting my successes and challenges. And it takes a very short period of time to be able to do that. In the long term, if you're in a position where they're one of your direct reports, you might recommend that they attend a training session to start to work on it. I do a lot of work around emotional intelligence that's figuring out how to process these emotional responses. So if it's somebody who has a really serious challenge with acknowledging that they have emotional responses and working through them, then I would say start with the little pieces like that. Start with little trust building work on the team, and then maybe recommend that they attend a training like this.